If you are trying to go to Camp Randall this Saturday and see the Wisconsin Badgers put up somewhere between 68 and 70 points on the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders, maybe you entered our ticket giveaway. Maybe you won. You're going to find out today. And we're diving deep into the film room with my BadgerNotes.com colleague, Seamus Rohrer, as we break down Wisconsin's pass rush here on Talkin Badgers. Welcome to Talkin Badgers, powered by BadgerNotes.com, your favorite daily Wisconsin Badgers podcast. I am your host, Kedrick Stumbris. You can find me on all the various social medias at Kedrick Stumbris and follow the podcast at Talkin Badgers on the website formerly known as Twitter. If you did so, you may be our winner of our ticket giveaway. We announced a giveaway for a pair of tickets to this weekend's game against Middle Tennessee earlier this week. Thank you to all of you. We had an outpouring of entries to that giveaway, and now it is time to announce our big winner. And that winner is at Carter Semby 6496, who entered via the YouTube comments on our video this Tuesday on our giveaway video. I believe Carter also entered through social media, the website formerly known as Twitter, but I do need him to confirm exactly his identity, get you your email. But Carter, we have replied to your YouTube comment on Tuesday's video, on the giveaway video. You need to reply there with your email or another way that we can contact you so that we can get you your tickets to the game this weekend. And Carter, who said that his favorite game day tradition is getting together and tailgating with the family. Hopefully you can do that this weekend as the Wisconsin Badgers take on the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. We need you to reply by 9 a.m. Central on Friday, September 5th. Otherwise, we're going to have to give away the tickets to somebody else. Carter, congratulations. We're going to get you on your way. Excited to keep doing some ticket giveaways in the future because this is for the fans in college sports these days. Fans get cut out of it. The fans are not the priority often enough. We are making sure the fans are the priority here. So, Carter, you're going to enjoy some tickets. Going to enjoy seeing Wisconsin put up some points on the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders this weekend. Next, we have Seamus Rohrer, my BadgerNotes.com colleague, coming on. We previewed this a little bit on the After Dark show Tuesday evening. If you have not gone back and listened to After Dark, do so after this one. Had a great time getting together with Coop and Ryan. But we previewed Seamus's column a little bit, talking about how he broke down, went into the film room, cracked open the All-22 tape, and looked at Mike Tressel's pass rush. And he's a little more bullish on the unit than I think he was at the beginning of the season. And that's what we're getting into next. It's Seamus Rohrer of Talkin Badgers. And we welcome back into the show for our weekly feature, Seamus Says, my BadgerNotes.com colleague. Seamus Rohrer, how you doing on this fine Thursday?
I'm great, Kedrick. How are you, man? It's great to be back.
I am doing super. I am looking forward to a football game in just a little over 48 hours from now. I guess we got the NFL on Thursday, but that'll scratch the itch for the time being. What I wanted to talk about, and I DM'd you this earlier this week, that I really loved the column that you published over on the site. And that was breaking down in the film room, Wisconsin Badgers pass rush. I know a unit you and I were both very concerned about coming into the week. I mean, top level observations. Were you impressed with the units? Are you more positive on the unit than you were going into week one now?
Kedrick, I am so impressed with the unit, honestly, more so than I thought I could have been. And I am for different reasons. You know, I mean, first of all, just top to bottom. I mean, they had 4, 5, 6 pass rushers, you know, D linemen, outside backers that were just constantly winning reps. Now, I know it's Miami of Ohio, and I think I prefaced my film review with sort of a little disclaimer. Yes, this is a MAC offensive line. This is an offensive line that's comprised entirely of new starters, but that doesn't make it any less impressive when pretty much everyone on your front seven is consistently beating their man. And what's especially impressive to me about that was not just the new faces that we knew, okay, well, maybe Mason Reiger can add a little juice to the pass rush. Maybe Parker Peterson can be a big body up the middle, kind of disrupt some of those offensive guards and centers. But you saw the development from people that had been here. And that was something that has been so lacking in recent years. And I think we had talked about this earlier. I mean, I had said, yeah, Daryl Peterson, what's he going to give you? What's his best season? 4.5 sacks. I mean, but man, he was, swimming past offensive guards, like lined up with his hand in the dirt. You look at a guy like Sebastian Cheeks, who the staff really thinks he settled into that role on the outside. And so just that development from your guys that had been here, I think was the most encouraging thing to me. And so that's why I'm super excited about this pass rush after what I saw from week 1.
Yeah. When I saw Daryl get that sack on Thursday night, I was like, oh, there's one. He's halfway to what he did last year. I thought about DMing you and being like, there he is. After you all but trashed him on this program, and then you're writing about him. You use the words program stalwart, Daryl Peterson.
Yeah. Listen, he made me change my tune. No, listen, I'm a big Daryl Peterson fan. I think I do think he's incredibly valuable for the fabric and the culture of the program, as I've said before. I haven't seen it before with the pass rush. But man, now that he's checking in at close to 260, I believe. And if he's clubbing his way past offensive guards, that's different than what we've seen in the past. So
it is. It's definitely different. I think the staff is doing more. I think he is one of a handful of guys who are benefiting from a slight but noticeable schematic change here. When it comes to that, what did you see that Mike Tressel put on tape, aside from individual personnel performances? What did the defensive coordinator put on tape that impressed you?
It's a good question. And, what Tressel did on Thursday night, it wasn't really that complicated. Now, I guess you don't want to reveal too much in week 1. You're not trying to show your whole playbook. But he basically, Tressel, he hardly even blitzed. But when he did, it was it seemed very thoughtful, very intentional. The 2 blitzes that he sent repeatedly that night after DeQuan Finn were the cornerback blitz, which I think Fickle talked after the game about how that kind of started as just a counter to him leaving the pocket with his legs on some of those read options as well. But nonetheless, they sent those cornerback blitzes to crank up the heat. Jameer Latimer out of the slot, De'Ani Hill as well. And then, man, he also loved sending Christian Allegro, and Tackett Curtis, those inside linebackers, whether it was up the A-gap or whether they did a little stunt to the outside. But that was probably my favorite schematic choice he made because, man, those 2 linebackers are so fast. And if you can just kind of point them in the right direction and let them loose, I think they can wreak some havoc. So it wasn't anything too crazy, I think. But it is important that Tressel is able to scheme up pressure because it's not really something that we've seen him do successfully in years 1 and 2.
Yeah, the first note there that he barely blitzed, that was something that jumped off the screen to me. And I mentioned in the show I did earlier this week talking about what I saw when I rewatched. On all 3 of the sacks, they only sent 4. And the 3rd sack, it's Christian Allegro, but it's because DeQuan Finn takes off from the pocket and Allegro says, okay, I'm here as a QB spy and I'm going to go right at you. It was impressive that they were able to get home with 4. But to you, how do you balance that where it is Miami of Ohio?
Yeah, no, I agree. But that doesn't mean I can still like the concepts that I saw, just how he was using his personnel. I think that was the greatest handle on his personnel I think I've seen Mike Tressel have in this entire experiment here. It just seemed like he's finally got the pieces in place to do what he wants to do from an X's and O's standpoint. And to your point about the blitzes, yeah, they didn't. You're right. I don't think any of those 3 sacks on Finn were blitzes. And even when they did bring heat, like I was talking about, like an inside linebacker or a cornerback, I mean, sometimes they would send a corner, but only have 3 guys at the line of scrimmage rushing. So you only really have 4 pass rushers. That's not necessarily a blitz, but you're still adding that extra pressure. You're still, making Finn question, okay, where's the heat going to come from on this snap? So it's just the little things like that, the little schematic things like that. And I think that Tressel just finally has personnel that he feels comfortable with in some of those situations.
Was there any particular player in that personnel that jumped off the screen to you?
I think probably just the linebackers, right? The speed of the inside linebackers lets him do so much because they can cover so much ground, right? They can cover ground in zone coverage. They can go sideline to sideline. They can just cover the field in a hurry. They take up space, for lack of a better phrase. So I think those linebackers in particular, you saw a little bit of it last year with Allegro getting in there, even though he wasn't even a starter. But I think Tressel just likes his skill sets more, particularly at that inside linebacker spot.
Yeah, they certainly are impressive, and I think left a lot of hope for the season ahead. Defensively, is there anything you saw that you don't think people are talking about over this very, very, very long Thursday to Saturday week that you think deserves a little more attention headed into week 2?
That's a good question. What people aren't talking about. I mean, to be honest with you, I know it was Miami of Ohio, but I think maybe just from a larger, if you take a step back, larger perspective on this, Kedrick, I think this defense could win them some games that maybe we didn't think they could win, or maybe that we thought were going to be exceptionally challenging. And I'm not saying this defense is going to win them a game against Bama or Oregon, but it might win them a game against Washington. It might win them a game against Indiana. And that obviously is super important in the schedule where you're just trying to get to 6 wins, to be quite honest with you. But I think maybe people aren't talking about, wow, that was look, it's an impressive performance, but again, Miami of Ohio, but they just won rep after rep after rep. And I mean, watching the tape, Miami's biggest play, I think they had a 20-yard pass play up the middle, like fresh out of a TV timeout, that Daquan Finn fit just over Tackett Curtis's helmet into a tight window. I mean, they were really impressive, Kedrick. And so I think that maybe not enough people are talking about, well, this defense might be able to impact that win total a little more than we thought.
Yeah, I think you line up, and it's week 1. I get it. But you line up Wisconsin week 1. You line up Iowa week 1. I think Wisconsin wins that game. And I would not have said that.
In terms of how they both performed?
Correct.
In week 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I would not have said that in such definitive terms one week ago.
No.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I haven't watched the Iowa game, but you look at the MAC giving a lot of teams, especially a lot of Big Ten teams, problems, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying Rutgers is an elite Big Ten program, but Ohio gave them hell for 4 quarters. You look at Buffalo hanging around with Minnesota. So listen, the MAC is not to be trifled with. I mean, the MAC usually beats a Big Ten team every year. So I understand the level of competition is about to increase dramatically, but I don't think that defensive performance should be taken for granted. Seriously.
It's a good note. I think I do agree with you. Like it's I understand level of opponent, completely different offensive line year over year for Miami, but it is something that I think deserves some amount of attention. And like you mentioned, Miami, or not just Miami, but MAC programs, they have beaten a Power Four program in going into Thursday. They'd beaten a Power Four program in 2 of the past 3 years, including Miami, who beat Northwestern in 2022. On the opposite side of the ball, because I know that's what everybody's talking about this week for some strange reason.
I can't imagine why.
For year 3 of 3 of not putting a date of finality on it, but year 3 of 3 so far of the Luke Fickell era, a starting quarterback has sustained a major injury. Gut emotions on Thursday evening as you saw it happen, Seamus?
Just dark comedy, tragedy. I mean, it looked bad too. You know, non-contact injuries are always terrifying. But I think when I saw Billy, and I wasn't at the game, but just watching on TV, I think when I saw Billy on the sideline, they were taking him to the locker room, and he kind of like waited outside the tunnel to like look and watch like one more play. He seemed, I think when I saw that, I was like, okay, you know, this could still be bad, but that's not the look of a man who is about to miss his final season of college football. So there were a couple, you know, it was probably 10, 15 minutes, you know, there were a couple TV timeouts that were rough. But yeah, just like I said, man, dark comedy, tragedy, just terrible emotions swirling around. And you like when they asked Fickell about it too, man. I mean, you could tell that he's kind of still at a loss for words. But yeah, that was the initial response for sure.
I love that you said that, because that's also how I process a lot of things, where it's just like, this is so terrible for so many people in that room that you just like kind of can't help but laugh at just the sheer absurd coincidence of it.
Well, so many people's jobs are on the line.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people's livelihoods are pretty much dependent on, you know, Billy Edwards not missing significant time. So it's quite the development. And honestly, I'm surprised it didn't get a little more national attention, just from, you know, how things have gone the past couple of years with Badger quarterbacks. But yeah, certainly, you know, a shock to the system.
Yes, it was. Obviously, I think that the story gets more national attention if Wisconsin starts a little more on the radar, but they were the talk of like every college football show that does the who has the hardest schedule in the country conversation. And so it is a little, I agree. It is a little surprising that it's not like, here's an easy headline. Hey, remember this team that we said had the hardest schedule in the country? Yeah, they just lost their starting quarterback too. Absurdity.
Yeah.
What did you see about out of Danny O'Neil for all of the dark comedy of it all? I thought we saw more out of Danny O'Neil on Thursday than we saw for quite significant periods of time for the last 2 years of a Braden Locke.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because I was about to say the exact same thing. I mean, he just plays with a lot more confidence than I think I've seen from Braden Locke. Now, I still want to know what happened on that interception in the end zone. That was really ugly. Everything else, and also his mobility too. I mean, that was maybe the most impressive part on some of those 3rd and longs, design, quarterback keeper, quarterback draw. Danny O'Neil right up the teeth of the Miami defense. I mean, he has some moxie. And I think the most telling thing, you know, you watch him play, good performance, 2 touchdowns. The pick was regrettable, 120 yards, something like that. You can tell he carries himself with that confidence. But I think the biggest tell was when you listen to Fickell talk about him. And Fickell, he's not going to really rave about anyone, but he talks about Danny O'Neil and he goes, oh, this kid is a ball player. he's like, I love an athletic arrogance. He just carries himself with a certain je ne sais quoi. I don't know. But Fickle, the way that Fickle talks about him, he never said anything remotely close to that about Braden Locke. And I know that Braden Locke wasn't his guy. You know, he was a Longo guy, and obviously didn't work out too well. But I think that if it's the Danny O'Neill show for the time being, Badger fans should feel a lot better than they did last year with a backup quarterback at the helm.
I think so too. Seamus, I know you're not a born and bred Wisconsinite. Are you an NFL fan of some team over there on the East Coast?
Not quite the East Coast, but half of my family is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, actually.
Oh,
so
okay.
They're playing an East Coast team this week, though.
Okay, I don't have a super apt comparison here then, but I will force feed it. I've been thinking about how the Packers have employed Malik Willis over the last 12 months, for example, where he is very much not as talented a quarterback as Jordan Love. And I don't think the drop off between Billy Edwards and Danny O'Neill is nearly this stark, but just Malik Willis's ability to move on the run does make up for that lack of arm talent. And I think it's clear Danny O'Neill does not have as big of an arm as Billy Edwards.
No.
But although Billy Edwards can run, he is a different kind of runner than Danny O'Neill. And I think Danny O'Neill having that I'm fast and I can run for 17 yards on a designed play on 3rd and 9 adds something different to the offense that I think should give people, like you mentioned, a certain level of confidence that this is not just simply a step down in quarterback play. While it might be something of a step down, it also just requires teams to orient themselves a little bit differently, which is different than just sheerly taking the offense and turning it to the number 2 guy.
It does. And I think for me, the biggest difference when I watched both quarterbacks play on Thursday was not anything physical, although you are completely right. Billy's got the stronger arm. Danny's more mobile. But to me, it was just, I could tell, okay, Billy has started a full season in the Big Ten, right? Like it just seems under control. He seems like his process was a little more under control. Whereas Danny O'Neill took a snap, and I'm thinking, all right, anything could happen. Like anything can happen here. Billy felt a little more like he was orchestrating an offense like he had played in the Big Ten for many years, which he had. So that was the biggest difference to me. I don't know if this was just me trying to convince myself when I was watching, but I was getting the sense, I was like, well, if this offense operates how they want it to, it shouldn't really matter who's playing quarterback, which obviously it always matters who's playing quarterback. But when you listen to Fickle talk, I mean, that's the thing that he keeps bringing up this year as well. We just couldn't put ourselves in a position again to where we lose our starting quarterback and we're screwed offensively. I think that they brought in this offense partially because they wanted to be able to run an offense somewhat successfully, even if they had to go further in the pecking order in the quarterback room. So I think that was the biggest difference for me. It's just kind of that maturity and the sort of like calm that I got the sense Edwards brought to the huddle and to the line of scrimmage. But I mean, listen, if Billy's injury isn't that severe, this kind of couldn't have came at a better time, right? Let's see what Danny can do against Middle Tennessee.
It absolutely adds to the flavor of a season where if you were just worried about coming in and having to watch this team lose games, I think at the very least, Danny O'Neill is going to provide an entertainment factor that you maybe didn't have coming into it. Okay. Looking ahead this week, the Wisconsin Badgers have the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders on the schedule. I think this is something of an obvious answer. It's not a game that I've talked about a lot on the channel this week for, I think, what are increasingly obvious reasons. But do the Badgers get the win this weekend over Middle Tennessee? Seamus says
they certainly do get the win. I think the much bigger question if you're a gambling man, is do they cover the spread, which I believe is at 28.5 points. And it's interesting, the Middle Tennessee writer I was talking to really broke this down in great detail for me when I asked him about it. But he doesn't even believe that the Blue Raiders are going to score at all.
Rough.
So then the question becomes, okay, is Wisconsin going to score more than 4 touchdowns? Or let's say Middle Tennessee scores a touchdown. Does Wisconsin score 35 points? What I told him is I don't expect the Badgers to blow anybody out, just with the way that they play. I mean, it felt like they had 3 offensive drives in the first half last week. Mm-hmm. So I don't really expect them to.
It's because one of them was 15 plays, 7+ minutes.
Right. No,
ended,
true.
Ended in a field goal.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Could have only been more Wisconsin if it ended in a punt. But I think that, listen, what you're really looking for here is just a lot of more of the same of what you saw in week 1. The score doesn't have to be 66-0, right? But you want to see that new offense continue to hum. You want to see the defense continue to play lights out. Really, you just want to see Danny cut down on the mistakes. I think that you don't want to see any of those ugly interceptions. So, yes, they win. I do think they win handily. Do they cover the spread? I, quite frankly, don't think so, because I just don't think that they're built to blow teams out of the water, even teams that they're far superiorly talented against.
Yeah, I think the weirdest way of looking at this game and trying to figure out if Wisconsin can blow them out of the water, it's not as if Austin Peay, the FCS program that beat Middle Tennessee last week, came in and ran all over Middle, or came in and chucked the ball all over the yard. They had under 2 yards passing, 150 yards rushing, but nobody ran for over 35 yards. It's something of a weird blowout win. There were no pick sixes. It makes it a little bit hard to project how a Big Ten team comes in and wins. I think it's obvious to say, clearly Middle doesn't have bodies necessarily. I think that's very obvious. I don't think their offensive line is very good based on what we saw Austin Peay do to them. But when I think there are just so many unknowns about the Wisconsin football offense in particular, it does make it a little bit harder to game script out. Okay, if we are expecting a blowout, I think it's harder to game script out exactly what that blowout looks like.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's hard to sort of visualize it in your head, just especially with, you're right, the unknowns on the offense. But what I will say, Kedrick, one thing I really am looking for is some big plays out of this offense, because an offense that can control the clock, grind out long drives in the run game, that's all fine and dandy. That tends to travel, but you also have to be explosive if you're going to win. If you're going to beat some of these teams that you can only dream of beating on your schedule. So, and another interesting point that the Middle Tennessee writer I talked to brought up was that Austin Peay got a good chunk of their yards on 7 or 8 just huge plays. So that Blue Raiders defense looks pretty susceptible to the big play, and you'd really like to see Wisconsin take advantage of that a little bit, whether that's, a gorgeous 70-yard post route to Vinny Anthony, or maybe it's just a screen pass that ends up going for, 40, 50 yards, whatever it is. You want to see a little explosiveness out of this Badgers offense, because they're going to need it down the line. And you'd like to see some of those playmakers kind of take matters into their own hands, especially against an opponent as overmatched as Middle Tennessee.
Completely agree. Of course, we saw an explosive that's a solid catch and run down the sideline from a Vinny Anthony. You wish you saw more of those deep shots connecting with him. There were a couple that maybe he should have had last Thursday. If they can build those into the game, I think you feel a lot more confident about Wisconsin moving forward, because if there's any chance they're going to be able to generate explosive plays in the Big Ten, they got to start with it this upcoming Saturday.
100%. If it doesn't happen this Saturday, I understand that you have a backup quarterback in the game, but if it doesn't happen this Saturday, when's it going to happen, right?
Right. Seamus, any burning thoughts on week 1, week 2, Danny O'Neil, the Danny Slime nickname that Ryan is trying to socialize? Anything to mind that we have not talked about yet on this program?
Yeah, the Danny Slime, I like it. It rolls off the tongue. I still don't really understand it, but I'm here for it though, man. I think I got everything across, my man. This is like a great therapy session for me every week, where I can just get all my thoughts about the Badgers off the top of my head. But no, seriously, man. I think I said my piece. Looking forward to a nice afternoon kickoff Saturday. But yeah. It's looking like 2-0. It's looking like 2-0.
For Wisconsin's sake, you certainly hope for it. That is Seamus Rohrer, my colleague over at BadgerNotes.com. If you want to see the film breakdown, look at the clips that he watched. You can find those at BadgerNotes.com. We will link his column in the podcast description as well, talking about the pass rush and Mike Tressell's little bit of a new look defense from last weekend against Miami, and maybe what we'll see against Middle. Seamus, thanks again for joining us on Talkin Badgers.
Anytime, Kedrick. My pleasure.
Thanks again to Seamus Rohrer, again, my colleague at BadgerNotes.com. You can find his column in the podcast description. We will be back tomorrow doing some combo of breaking down this game against Middle Tennessee a little bit more. I'm going to try to give you some players to know, some names to know ahead of the weekend. The first Saturday inside Camp Randall Stadium. Really looking forward to that and a great old Saturday of college football. Until we talk to you all again here tomorrow, my name is Kedrick Stumberis. The show is Talkin Badgers. You can subscribe to us for free, youtube.com/@Talkin Badgers. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Only about 1/3 of you are subscribed while you're here. Let's change that. If you're here this long, hit the subscribe button. It's free. You'll get notified as soon as we put a new episode into your feed. There will be on top of the show tomorrow, an instant reaction show live on Saturday after the game. Make sure you join us for that. Until then, on Wisconsin.